You know, with this, it is fixed. Welcome to the conversation. I'm highlighting that, for example, when you're dealing with math is fixed, is not fixed. But this one is fixed, like in macroeconomics. Let's say, what happens when you increase money supply? It's a known thing. We already know what happens. It will not change. There is not twisting of any kind. You get it, right? Those are facts. But math is interesting.
However, very interesting, Monday.
Inflation. It is basically a sustained increase in the general price level. That is inflation. So inflation is usually measured as a rate or as a percentage. That's what it's a persistent increase in the general price level. Okay? You can measure this monthly or yearly or quarterly. You can pick that from the Bank of Zambia. And this is a graph really that shows inflation rates per month, right? And now, these are inflations. The inflations for different goods. You've seen them. Huh? For all items, that's what. For foods and non-alcoholic beverages, that's that. Alcoholic beverages, that's the inflation. Right. Clothing and footwear for different goods now. This one is consolidated. You understand, right? You don't need to memorize this. No one will ask you this. There are, when you talk about the sources of inflation, where inflation comes from, the following are some of the major, sources of inflation. The first one is what we call demand, right? Full inflation, which is actually caused by excess demand, right? By excess demand, when you have over increase in demand levels, so that causes inflation. So excess demand, in this case, refers to the aggregate real demand for output, actually in excess of maximum feasible or potential or full employment output at the going price. So that is what that means, excess demand, all right? Now, since if you look at this, for example, I'm talking about demand pull inflation. This one is caused by any factor that is affecting aggregate demand, as you have seen. Aggregate demand, consumption, investments, plus government expenditure, plus net exports, right? Any factor that is affecting this will cause aggregate demand to increase. Now, follow nicely, the price levels are increasing like this. Supply is fixed, right? Then aggregate demand, price one, AD1. When aggregate demand has been pushed, increased, then you see it's the demand curve, aggregate demand curve shifting to the right, right? Then price increases. You've seen, right? Price two.
Yeah.
Y2. When it shifts further to AD, this is a graphical representation. Price increases to P3. So as aggregate demand is increasing, right? Then also the price levels are increasing. This kind of demand of inflation is called demand pull inflation. The common causes thereof include consumer confidence, changes in the consumer confidence. For example, we know that if our consumers are confident about the economy, then they spend more. If they have a lot of confidence, we know that, guys, the economy is really good. Things will be fine, right? But if we are not confident about the economy, we become conservative. We try to spend less. We are worried because we're like, guys, it seems to be hard where we are going. So let's see, save, let's do what, that behavior. So that's what we mean. Government expenditure, we know that when government spends more, then the prices will go up because of an increase in government expenditure. And sometimes inflation can be expected by the people. Just by the people themselves can have those expectations. Expansionary monetary policy can still cause the inflation. when there is too much increase in the money supply, you find that that can still really bring about inflation. You're good?
Sir.
There is also what you call cost push inflation. This one is brought about an increase in the cost of production. When the cost of production really increases, then prices are going up because the suppliers are trying to recover their money that they incurred. Okay? When the cost of production goes up, the one who bears that cost most of the time is a consumer. You get it, right?
Mm.
If the
Yes.
production becomes expensive, then, for example, electricity becomes expensive and everything. Also, the people who produce, they will just lift up the prices to factor in that increase in prices. And this is what we mean by cost push inflation, basically caused by increase in the cost of production. And the common factors would include a wage push, right? A wage rise. When labor unions, for example, negotiate for salary increments or wage increments, you see that causes inflation. Yeah, that causes inflation, right? Wage push. You get what that means, right? You know, if people become expensive really, then the production becomes expensive. So even the prices when you are charging things that those same people are producing, we increase so that we can recover the money. Okay.
Yes.
Even the cost of some intermediate commodities that we use for production, like the cost of raw materials, all that it causes inflation. There is also what you call imported inflation. And by imported inflation, we mean, for example, there is a devaluation or depreciation of the local currency. This will increase the price of imports, isn't it? Imported inflation. You remember what we said about devaluation yesterday? It's a deliberate move to reduce the value of a currency. You understand? You divide your currency. You decide. Then depreciation of a currency. This one is influenced by the forces of demand and supply. So you don't really have control over it, all over it. You don't have control over the same.
Yeah.
And because of that, you see that the production costs will rise. Even higher taxes will also increase costs, isn't it? Yeah, especially those that are like value-added taxes that are charged on specific commodities. We are good?
Yes, sir.
We have heard of unemployment that is one of the key components of the labor force, usually expressed as the rate. Okay. It is a situation that describes the person's willingness and ability to work. And the key words used is willingness and what? Ability to work. You get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you might have willingness, you have ability to work, but if you're not actively looking for a work, then you can't qualify to be unemployed. You understand, right? So when you measure unemployment, we look at those people who are willing to work, they are even able to work, and they are not just seated home, they are actively looking for work. All right? So I've emphasized, number one, the key features of unemployment include willingness to work, ability to work, you're looking for the job, and four, you can't find that job. You get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Labor force is basically the sum. When you say labor force, we mean those people who are employed plus those who are not employed. And unemployment rate is basically the number of unemployed people divided by the total labor force. That will give us unemployment rate. And also employment rate is the number of employed people divided by the total labor force. All right? That will give us that. Okay. Labor force participation rate, this one is basically the labor force, which is, labor force is made up of employed plus unemployed, right? Divided by the working age. meaning the age between 15 and the 60 what? 65, right? It's a
Mhm.
working age. Okay? Working age. The four are some of the major types of unemployment that we might have even come across during our principles of macro. Frictional
Yes.
unemployment. Frictional unemployment, right? What kind of unemployment is this one?
Let me answer the ones frictional. I usually miss it
You
with,
usually confuse it.
yes, I confuse it with the, I don't know, I think should be classical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So seasonal unemployment, this is an employment as a result of like when there's, like, for example, this is an employment that happens seasonally, like for example, there is during rain season, you find that people would want to employ people, like people to help them work in the field. And
Yeah.
once the rain season is done, then those are out of employment.
Yeah.
Yes, seasonal is similar to cyclical. Is
Yeah.
it? Yes.
Yeah, cyclical is caused by the downturns in the economy. The boom, the recession, depression.
I came
Those. Mhm.
I came across a question that was saying a decrease in an increase in planned inventory can
Mhm.
result in
Classic.
an increase in unemployment. You're
Yes.
getting that one, yeah? So
Yeah.
yes, then they asked me what type of
Unemployment.
unemployment is this? Yes.
What is that? Remember where we
Like
have increase or decrease in the unemployment. What kind of employment is that?
a decrease.
Decrease or increase in the what inventory?
That one should be cyclical because it's affecting, like it's
It's
like,
affecting aggregate demand.
yes, it's
Yeah.
like the less demand, the less you would want people to produce more, so you lay them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Phillips curve draws the relationship between inflation and unemployment. And it is important to take home that there is a negative relationship between inflation and the unemployment. When inflation increases, unemployment reduces.
Reduces.
And when inflation reduces, unemployment increases again. You see how these variables, both of these variables, we don't want them, they are bad. Inflation and unemployment. But you see, if you reduce the other one should increase. You get that, right?
Yes.
That's why the Phillips curve is downward sloping like this, marking the relationship between inflation and unemployment. Okay? Otherwise, there is really nothing much to talk about that you should be